It's 1 win in 8 as Ipswich fail to be already relegated Crewe and the season fizzles out. This is the Blue Monday podcast. Well, here we are, Seb. Enjoy the boxing last night.
Yeah, can we talk about that for 45 minutes instead of Crewe away? I think we'll get more out of it, won't we?
Bit one-sided, though?
A little bit, yeah. It's a complete mismatch, isn't it, Christ? The White couldn't get anywhere near him. He's just so big and his reach is huge. And, yeah, an absolute mismatch. Yeah, he's a Goliath. And he's done now, he says. He says he's retired. I'm not entirely sure that's true. But, yeah, it was a decent fight. Too expensive, but a decent fight all round and a good way to end the Saturday night.
Joe, if there's anything we can trust, it's when a boxer says he's retired, he definitely isn't going to have another fight, because that's never happened before.
You see, I like wrestling and I've watched lots of it in my life. He's a better wrestling talker than all the blooming wrestlers are, Tyson Fury. He's brilliant. Joe, I'm a bit of a hypocrite though, aren't I? Because I tell the boys off for talking about golf and I've just talked about boxing. But the season is fizzling out somewhat, isn't it, Joe?
It is, yeah. And I think yesterday, I don't know, it had a sort of real sort of end of season, pre-season-y feel about it all, didn't it? It was hard to... I was sort of chatting to my mate that I went to the game with, and I was like, if we score, I don't think there's really going to be many limbs flying around in this away end here.
That would be hard for even the YouTube generation to... Another hypocritical comment with my YouTube antics, but even the YouTube generation to fake. Really important, serious issue now, guys. I've got to issue a public apology. Okay, so you need to let me do this. I've let myself down. I've let the podcast down. I've let the club down. In our midweek Q&A, Craig recounted a tale about some football banter from the Wigan supporters who made a banterous criticism of our fan base. Now, when Craig did that, what he did, Seb, he recounted the number of Wigan fans that were at the game and the number of Ipswich fans that were at the game. And Joe, do you know what I did?
I don't know. Sorry, Ben.
I laughed. And I just want to issue a huge public apology to Wigan. I know that their fans have had a really tough season and they've got nothing to celebrate at the moment. But that laugh, I'm just really sorry I did it, Seb. And congratulations to Wigan, but we've been very present on the Wigan timeline, Seb, since Wednesday.
I think if the same number of fans that had kicked off at you had attended the game at Pulmoner, they'd have had a sellout, wouldn't they? They'd have had a sellout. There we go.
Like, we normally do fancy dress for the last away game of the season, but they had a big fancy dress party for the last home game of the season. There's empty seats, it seemed, yesterday for the promotion party.
Congratulations to Wigan. We've been
didn't get promoted.
We've been praising your manager and lots of theory. We literally discussed Liam Richardson every podcast while Paul Cook was here. But look, it's football banter, and we were recounting a tale of it. And we know it's a long way on a Tuesday night. And again, congratulations on the promotion, Wigan. But yes, I had to mute the thing in the end. My Twitter was going bing, 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 bing. How was Fair's executive travel then, Joe, yesterday? Just take me through the journey from Ipswich to Crewe, podcast, stops, food, etc. You can tell the season's fizzling out here.
Yeah, decent journey, but it was, I don't know, it felt like the whole way there it was either I was in a 50 zone or a 60 zone, and they seemed to just put 10 miles of 50 miles per hour because there's a car stopped in a hard shoulder 6 miles ago, and I was getting quite frustrated on the way back when I got stopped in a police escort.
Oh,
and going at 1 mile an hour down the A14, or because there was a car broken down on the road, which I managed to nip off at Claydon and come back on at Ipswich and get ahead of the sort of convoy. But I don't know, everything's just overkill on the roads, isn't it? Health and safety gone mad, I tell you.
I've got two excellent stories, Seb. First one is about Claydon. My late grandfather, who lived in Bresingham between Ipswich and Norwich, without fail, every time he drove to Ipswich and was on the A14, came off the slip road at Claydon, over the roundabout, and back on to the A14, and no one ever told him, bless him, or realised that he could have just stayed on the A14. Seb, I used to play a very childish game when I was out on the road doing gigs all the time. And I remember doing a journey to Crewe, and the game was that you never, it was called the Fifth Gear Challenge, and you never went out of fifth gear. And I do think I drove all the way to Crewe in fifth gear and managed to negotiate several roundabouts. But there we go. You were there, Seb. How was the sort of Joe was talking about it, D-mob and all of that? How was the atmosphere yesterday? Big intensity drop in the away end?
Yeah, like Joe said, it was a end of season, pre-season vibe. Good numbers. There was over 1,200, I think, in the end. So very good numbers, but they'd have been sold.
Seb, don't talk about attendance.
Why? I'm just saying, if you're a big club, you take big away followings. It's what you do, isn't it? So nothing wrong with that whatsoever. No. We're finishing 9th, and we've taken 1,200 fans away with us. So there we go. Just
9th?
A little jab. Not 10th or 11th, whatever it's going to be. But yeah, no, the atmosphere was what you expect from this kind of game. I guess when we sold all these tickets 4 weeks ago, we were all expecting this to be maybe the game where we cement our 4th or 5th or 6th position in the playoffs, but it's not worked out that way. So as a result, it had that end of school year kind of feel. Rich referred to it on the pre-match show, where you're there, but you're kind of like, oh yeah, okay, well, it's nice to see some faces and nice to have a meet up and have a beer, but the 90 minutes on the pitch is kind of a bit of an afterthought, isn't it?
There was a good noise down, sort of from the right hand side, wasn't there? It was because I was sort of on the halfway line and down towards the goal that both the goals went in. I think that's where the young, noisy lot went down that end. And
I was right down the other end with the old.
Yeah, because it was unrestricted seating. Like I said, the atmosphere was decent, to be fair, but it was just more mellow. It wasn't very intense.
Well, speaking of intensity, Crewe were already relegated a couple of games ago, weren't they? Let's just bung the teams up for those of you watching on YouTube. You'll be able to see that and the lineup here. Who should we go to? Let's go to Seb. Walton in goal, Danassian, Wolfenden, Burgess, Thompson, and the lesser spotted Kane, Vincent Young, Backinson, Morsey, Chaplin, Piggott, and Norwood. So some value in this lineup in terms of some names that we've asked some questions about, Seb.
Yeah, good to see Vincent Young come back in. I guess when they suggested that Burns had picked up a knock and he was going to be struggling, we all kind of figured, okay, well, hopefully Vincent Young will get some time. We'll come on to him. He did okay, and good to see him get a solid hour or so in the team. I was a bit disappointed none of the youngster guys kind of started. I'd have liked in Humphreys, maybe a Laurel Mazzuni alongside Morsey in the centre of midfield rather than Backinson. We know what Backinson can do, and being the deadest of dead rubbers, I kind of figured that hopefully one of those might get a game to show what they're all about. And then, yeah, Norwood and Piggott were the front two, but Norwood played left, so it was very much kind of, Chaplin on the right, Norwood left, and Piggott sort of the focal point. I don't think they went up front as a pair at all, regardless of what that might say. And yeah, Piggott coming back in, Piggott did what he did. We'll come on to him and discuss him in greater detail. But Vincent Young was the plus from that lineup, I reckon.
Well, what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, similar to Seb, really. I like the look of the bench. I think that maybe asks and answers some questions about who may and may not be here next year. When you look at someone like Tom Carroll, not even on the bench when he's fit, and Nick Hayes named on there, but ahead of Václav Hladký, is that a sign that Hladký's just out the door? Maybe if we don't find whether he's injured or not during this week, and Saturday he's not on the bench again, I think that sort of tells a story about him. But yeah, I say you see the team think, oh, Norwood and Piggott up front, try something different to up front. But as Seb said, from the first minute, it was Piggott in the middle, Chaplin on the right, Norwood on the left, and I don't know, it just doesn't really work at the moment. I just don't think we got whatever. We don't have the right players for that front three at the moment for what McKenna wants to do, and it didn't work really yesterday.
We're going to get into all of the action in just a second after this message from our lovely sponsors over at Favourite Chicken.
With wings more crisp than a James Norwood finish, ribs meatier than a Sam Morsey tackle, and chicken tastier than Wes Burns, Favourite is Britain's tastiest chicken. And as a listener of the Blue Monday podcast, you can get 20% off by entering BM20 at the checkout. Order direct from their menu at chicken-ipswich.co.uk. They'll deliver anywhere within a 2.7 mile radius of the store. And if you're not quite as local as the Bond family, you can click and collect. The store is located just off Hadley Road. Favourites, Britain's tastiest chicken.
Thank you to everybody who's supported our partnership with Favourite Chicken and ordered using that discount code. Pretty dominant then, Seb, in the first half in terms of possession numbers and shot count and whatnot. Do you want to take me through? And we're going to take the lead right at the end of the half.
Yeah, it was dull, let's be honest. It was very boring for 45 plus 1 minutes or whatever it was. There was some nice play in between the two penalty boxes from both sides, to be fair. Crewe knocked it around okay, I thought, in the middle of the park. But then just a real lack of quality once they got within sort of, 20 yards of the goal or so. They had one effort. Chris Long got put in and he blazed it well wide. And I can't really remember. We had a couple of blocked efforts and stuff. 6 corners, I think we had in the first half. I think I counted 6 corners, and as usual, very little threat from those. And then as it was petering out to half-time, a couple of minutes of injury time added on, there was one moment of decent build-up play that resulted in the opening goal, obviously.
Do you want to take us through that one, Joe?
Yeah, it's Wolfie on the ball, isn't it? Who ends up getting it down the ball. Wolfie, my mate Wolfie.
That's mate.
And Vincent, and it looks like Vincent Young isn't quite going to make it. It gets all the way to the byline and does well to pull it back into an area. And it's behind the striker in the box, but Chaplin comes sort of flying in and gets across it right-footed. And he sort of, it looks like he sort of scuffs it, but he does find the corner, which puts it out of the keeper's range. And really good finish. And I think that's what we've missed in recent games, sort of someone late coming into the box. It seems we've had everyone in the box already and they've all made the same run, where this time the ball was behind one. Chaplin went forward, got their lovely finish. You can tell the goal really meant a lot to him as well, the way he celebrated down in front of the away fans down in that corner as well. So good goal. And I think we're probably just about good enough value for the lead at half-time. I don't think we were definite for it, but we were just about good enough for it.
It's one of those goals, I think, Seb, that looks better than it is. I think Vincent Young did well to actually cut it back quite so deeply. And like Joe says, it's right in the corner, nice and early. Chaplin's finished the season all right, hasn't he, Seb?
I think he's done okay. Yeah, he's at 11 goals now, 10 in the league and 1 in the cup, I think. So, yeah.
It's 9 in the league and 2 in the cups.
Wow.
Is it? Okay, yeah. So 11 goals for the season. And, yeah, I think he's done okay. It was, like Joe said, it looked like he scuffed it. I thought it was expertly placed at the time, given my viewpoint. But when you watch the replay, it looks like it's slightly scuffed. But he's put it in the place the keeper can't get to. Really happy to see Vincent Young involved. You know, he gets down the line strongly and he puts lovely weight on the ball. And it's a lovely late arrival in the box. That's what we've not seen enough this season is, the number 10s and the midfielders breaking late into the box to get on the end of things. And like Joe said, you couldn't say we were fully dominant and fully deserved the victory, but we'd done just about enough to warrant going in ahead at the break.
Yeah, I like those numbers. Look, 23 starts for Chaplin, 9 goals, 2 assists, so 11 goal contributions, 3 big chances created as well. What's the disconnect between those decent numbers then, Seb, and him starting more games across the two managers?
I guess he struggled to find his best position at times. He's kind of been played out wide every now and again. I think he's come out in the week, hasn't he, and said he's normally a 9 or a 9.5. He's used to playing up front for Barnsley, and I don't think we've ever seen that here at all. He's kind of always been in that slightly more withdrawn role. But I was quite surprised. There was some Twitter chat recently saying he might be one that they look to move on in the summer and stuff. But I think he's a great little player. I like the energy he brings. He's always positive. He's always buzzing around, and you know that if he gets within 20 yards of goal, he's going to try and get it onto his left foot and have a pop. So I think he's had a decent season. I think he's deserved to start more games. He never really got that run, did he? He had a little run under Cook where he played well against the likes of, was it Portsmouth and Wickham and stuff. Then he would get injured. He had a back problem and he'd miss a few games here and there and then come back in and get a few games. But I think he's done well. He's must be joint second top goal scorer with Burns behind Bon or third maybe. And considering the number of starts he's had, you just said it there, 23 odd starts. Those are pretty decent numbers, I'd say.
Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I think he's a player that's always looking to make something happen, is he, in the final third? And maybe sometimes when you're trying to play a little bit possession heavy, sometimes he can be a little bit loose on the ball, and sometimes he tries too hard to make things happen. But it seems like McKenna's sort of looked to play different players at home compared to away from home, and it seems Chaplin tends to play away from home and Aluko plays the home games. It's sort of mixed that way. But I'd be quite happy to see Selena and Chaplin as the two 10s or the 2 wide forwards behind a striker, because I think they're the 2 players that make the most things happen. And when you compare, and like I say, I think Aluko's been good this season, but when you look at the numbers of Chaplin, you look at the numbers of Selena, and then you look at the numbers of Aluko. Well, Aluko's got a couple of goals, 3 goals maybe, and an assist, where both sort of Selena and Chaplin make a lot more happen in the final third. It's not just about numbers; it's about play as well. But I think sometimes you do just need to get more goal scorers and goal creators on the pitch, especially when we've been as sort of shot shy and created as little as we have done in recent weeks.
It's difficult, this balance, Seb, isn't it? Because when and I have Selena as, I can't think of a better word, so I'm going to say luxury players. I have Selena as far more of a luxury player than Chaplin is. But I'm interested when Joe's sort of talking about the numbers and getting those 2 in the team, about whether that's possible in terms of balance, and would you have to sacrifice a little bit? Can you get your wing backs that far forward? Can you have a central midfielder, bombing on in that system with those 2 players? Did you see what I'm saying, Seb? In terms of,
I think as long as you've got a disciplined body like Backinson behind, who will simply sit there and do the hard work. I guess Evans as well, before he got injured, does the same kind of role. Then you've got that natural security, haven't you? Paul Cook always talked about his box of 4 players. You need the 2 central midfielders, and the centre backs would be his defensive cover for the game. Now, obviously, we've changed since then, and we have the 3 bodies at the back, and we have the 2 bodies in midfield, and Morsey now starts to push up. So I think as long as you've got that one central midfielder who is happy to sit around the halfway line and look to recycle the ball and break play up, I think you can make it work and still have your fullbacks bombing on, and still potentially have one of the centre backs, i.e. Danassian, right up there as well, alongside Burns, looking to make things happen, and you've still got that kind of solidity at the back.
Joe?
Yeah, and I think it's probably the sort of player the fans would most recognise playing that role here would be someone like a Cole Skuse, who played that role for years, and his first instinct was to ensure that we didn't concede a goal. And sometimes you don't want a midfielder who just does that. And maybe we had the balance wrong at sometimes when Mick McCarthy was here with the fullbacks. But when you've got fullbacks that bomb on, you need someone, and it's what Paul Cook needed, somebody who their thought process is effectively, if we lose the ball on this pass, where do I need to be to make sure that we don't concede a goal, and just track the game from that side and read the game and run the game. And I think Backinson does that relatively well. He has a few slip-ups. I think yesterday, I don't know, was he off the pitch yesterday when they scored? But it's a goal when it's sort of a long ball forward, and their midfielders are getting to the ball ahead of our midfielders defensively.
No, he played the whole 90.
Yeah,
did he?
so, and you don't sort of see him on the highlight there, do you? When they scored, and it's just, I don't know, you just need somebody who is their only job is to stop the other team from scoring, because Danassian bombs on at right back. The wing backs are almost like wide forwards almost at times, aren't
If
they?
you look at the starting position from the restart,
I remember reading something from, must have been Michael Cox on The Athletic, and basically says that the big teams now play effectively a line of 5 up front, whether that's the wing back, the 3 forwards, and one of the midfielders pushes on and it flips around and does that. But they basically sort of play either 2-3-5 or 3-2-5 when they have the ball, and that's what we look to do. But it does mean that the 3 and the 2 have to be absolutely nailed on and can't let up or slip or make a mistake.
Speaking of letting up then, Seb, let's talk about this second half. I mean, Joe's already mentioned the goal, which is going to come late in the game, but can you sort of take us up to there? Any threat of, conceding up to then, or any possibility of making it 2?
Yeah, they had a couple of chances, and we had one for Norwood. So I think the first one was the Mandron header. So the ball comes in from their left-hand side, and Mandron gets across, and it's a really good. He puts it almost straight at Walton, but Walton gets down well and pushes it away, and then he hooks the rebound over the bar when a simple, a square ball or a ball back behind, and it's a simple tap in for them. And they kind of started to threaten a bit. We kind of seem to lose fitness and energy, I think, in the second half, especially in the central midfield positions. I don't know if they were just knackered. They said the conditions weren't great. It looked a little bit windy and stuff. And
it
some
was
of the
really windy, and we were playing
Yeah.
with the wind in the first half and against the wind in the second, and it really was strong.
some of the goal kicks were going up and starting to come back down again, and we were just kind of inviting a little bit of pressure. We made a change, didn't we, at 60 odd minutes when Vincent Young went off, and because there was no, Wes Burns and no one else who can kind of fill it in a more natural position, we brought El Mazouni onto that right wing back role, and I kind of thought we were going to go to a 4-3-3 when that happened. I thought we might see a bit of a shift around, but we didn't. El Mazouni stayed on the wide right role, and he did okay. Norwood had a chance where he was played through. I think Chaplin slips him in, and it's a decent save with the keeper's legs. And if that goes in, it's game over. We quieten them down, and that's the points. And we head back to Suffolk with an okay end of season performance and 3 points in the bag. But then obviously we have the 85th, 84th minute, and I'll be honest, I didn't really see the goal that well because of where I was and my view in the ground. So Joe's probably better to talk through that one.
It's simultaneously very bad and very good, the goal, isn't it? It's a really good finish, Joe, but it's a bit bouncy about, and one of those goal kicks Seb was talking about that didn't clear halfway, that got caught up in the wind.
Yeah, it's just a ball into the striker. Mandron sort of has managed to get behind Burgess in the box, and I thought Mandron was good all game. He gave the defenders problems all game, and like I say, when Seb mentioned, he definitely should have scored that one, but he gets in behind Burgess. Burgess gets back to recover, wins the ball. It drops to their midfielder. Wolfie gets across, puts a big block in on that, but then the ball falls to Lowry, who's sharpest to react, and it's a really good finish, but it sits up so nicely.
So very Matt Holland, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just one. It's like obviously it's a really good finish and not taking anything away, but the way the ball set up, it's like not that you can't miss, but it looked so inviting to hit, and he struck it brilliantly, and the keeper had no chance, and it was a really good finish. But it looked so easy to score. That's one of the ones you dream about running onto, those ones, and he just gets there ahead of our midfielders. And so I think when the strikers getting in behind us, we shouldn't be allowing midfielders to get the run on us for things like that. That's got to be us getting back to pick up those second balls. And it's similar to the goal at Shrewsbury in recent weeks, where Thompson wins the header, but it drops down and it's their midfielders getting there ahead of our midfielders. So maybe that's something that we need to be working on. And I'm sure McKenna, that's probably one of the things he spoke about after the game.
Anything else on that, Seb?
No, like Joe said, it was so inviting to be hit. You could almost see it in slow motion and see the guy running on, and thought, "Oh, we're in trouble here." And straight away, the crowd go wild and they're up for it. And it had been coming because the game had kind of petered out, and you just got this feeling, given what we've done in recent weeks against the likes of Oxford and all the late goals, Shrewsbury, all the late goals we've conceded, you kind of thought they're going to get one chance here, and the chances are they're going to take it, because the whole thing was fizzing out quite badly, I thought, in the second half.
When you said the crowd go wild, my brain went, crowd go wild, tell me what you can do. Rewind. Were we 90s there or no?
About 2000, yeah.
That's
2002, 2003.
Yeah, played in Sound Academy in Ipswich and stuff.
Well, when I was at uni, just to change the subject totally,
mate, go for it. End of season.
On Wednesday night at Icon Diva in Southampton, and Thursday nights in Academy.
Icon Diva.
Yeah, it's like the Liquid down there. Icon Diva, Time Envy, Liquid.
Cartouche.
Thursday nights in Academy. Artful Dodger used to do a set every week and just basically play. It's all about the stragglers all night.
Yeah,
every now and again,
Southampton, that lot, aren't they?
Yeah, Craig David was or is, and
he's really good mates with James Beattie, apparently, isn't he?
I don't know about that, but he used to work in my local McDonald's down there. Not when I was at uni there, and I didn't actually have a local McDonald's. Most local one. Not that I went there like a local pub.
Unbelievable. Some Craig David chat here for you as we see out the end of the season on the Blue Monday podcast.
It's all moving too fast.
Yeah, very nice, very nice, very nice indeed. I'm walking away from this conversation now and looking.
There's only 7 days to go, thankfully.
Yeah, there we go. I think we ticked them all off.
Loads more.
Oh, is there? Okay, we'll move on. And yeah,
like the rise and fall of Ipswich Town.
Oh my goodness me. Let's have a look. A real horrible fizzle now, and if you're watching on YouTube, you have to see those results. But look. Draw against Pompey, draw against Oxford with that killer late goal. Really good win against Plymouth. So at that point, we don't think things are fizzling out. But in context, we now know that the wins are dropping off. Home defeat against Cambridge, draw against Shrewsbury, which has echoes of this one as well. Defeat against Rotherham, draw against Wigan, draw against Crewe. Look, obviously, we try and be as balanced as we can here, Seb, and we try not to get too high when the results were good and everything was trending up in the right direction. We were very cognizant of things probably being too far away at that point as well. But it is a bit disappointing this past 8 games to only pick up 1 win, isn't it?
It is, yeah, massively so, especially with the season ticket drive as well. I kind of thought it's a chance here for them to really look to put in some good performances and finish the season strongly and potentially get a few extra thousand on the season ticket numbers. I guess, the Oxford game, we keep coming back to it, was the one that really killed us, albeit we followed it up with a good performance and a good win against Plymouth, and then that Cambridge game was such a shock, I think. No one expected us to lose that game. We were all expecting a relatively comfortable win to take it into the Easter break, and that absolutely killed us. And since then, it's been very hard for both fans and players, I guess, to kind of motivate themselves when ultimately it means nothing. And hopefully on Saturday against Charlton, we will see a decent performance and a decent win to send us off into the summer with a bit of optimism. Do
you think, Joe, it's just that change of circumstance and going from Chase, can do it. Can we get there? We're on good form to, like Seb says, the gut punch of the Oxford goal and the Cambridge game. Do you think then it's just a matter of psychology and Kieran McKenna being unable to get that sort of intensity back up? But do you think there's something more systemic on the pitch?
I think it's just the intensity. I think obviously the late goal there was such a gut punch, wasn't it? And I think the fans felt that as much. And I think after that game, we looked at the stats and there was a 3% chance of getting into the playoffs at that point. If we were to, after that game, we then put in a brilliant performance against Plymouth, really seemed to be back. And then we looked at the stats after that game, and because everyone else won, our chance of getting in the playoffs went from 3% to 1%. And it's like, I think maybe I don't know, you don't know what the club are looking at there, but you sort of, like I say, you have that late goal, you put in a great performance, and then you look at the tables and it's like, it's still next to impossible to get there, and maybe that just sucked the life out of things a bit, and then you let your performance levels down 2 or 3%, and then it sort of goes from there. And the Cambridge result was really disappointing, but since then, when we thought the season was over after Oxford, I think it was we knew it was definitely over after Cambridge. It was sort of, we were looking for snookers at that point, and we just didn't. I don't know. It doesn't take a lot to not be able to get over the line, does it? You don't need to lower your performance levels a huge amount. You don't need to.
Oh God, this time of the season, Joe, just not winning is on one given weekend, isn't it?
And so McKenna's come in, and I think we've sort of been looking at the stats on the group chat this morning on the leveler and sort of the position he was in. I think to get to the playoffs from where he was when he was appointed, he'd have needed to get something like 54 points over 23 games. Obviously, we didn't know it was going to be that high, but he got us back in as close to contention as he could get us, but there was no catching now. So hopefully he's used these games to learn about the side. I'm sure he has. Maybe you have to, like I say, you scrape the barrel looking for positives. Maybe a positive is that we haven't turned up in these dead rubbers so much so that players aren't able to sort of pull the wool over McKenna's eyes that they are good enough or ready enough or wanting it enough that they haven't been able to do it now. So I remember one of the things Roy Keane said when he came in is that we won the last 2 games of the season, and it totally coloured his view on what we needed to do in the summer. And then he really regretted it because he said the squad wasn't good enough. We're just being carried by Gio effectively. And he let that influence him too much in the summer's decision. Well, McKenna doesn't have that now. Like, we're not going to see a demolition man, but I think he knows exactly what he wants and what he needs. And also, we have had George Edmondson injured. That's been a big loss. Lee Evans has been out. Obviously, Wes Burns was out yesterday. There's players out that were missed. Caden Jackson, who became a sort of very important part of the team. And I don't know, you take too many players out of the team, and it does go backwards, doesn't it?
It does. So I was following this on my stream yesterday with much enjoyment, this ludicrous League One. So let's just have a little look at where we are. And so we're going to basically up now when you sort of factor in goal difference. So let me do my maths quickly. I think it needs like a 7 or 8 goal swing, and Wigan with 2 games, with 2 games to play, and MK with only 1 to play, basically. So I don't see any. I mean, let's be fair. Although actually, when you factor in the games, Rotherham's game in hand is at Sunderland away, and on the last day of the season, I think MK have got Plymouth as well. So it's going to be a real fun last day, we think, between Rotherham and MK. I think, Seb, I've just got Rotherham edge in second place.
Yeah, probably. But Sunderland are on a hell of a run of form, and that's going to be a tough game for them to go to the Stadium of Light and try and get something. I mean, they're the form team heading into the playoffs. But yeah, I think Wigan and Rotherham, I mean, they've been up there for most of the season. I think Rotherham will do just about enough to get across the line, and then it's a shootout for who's going to finish in what positions in the playoff and who's going to play who.
And how many points is Six going to have?
Oh,
yeah, it's crazy.
We've got a question on that. Absolutely ridiculous. We were saying 3 months ago that 80-point number, kind of speculatively, and we now know, looking at Sheffield Wednesday and their game in hand, that it could even be 80, 82, 83, 84. Just an insane outlier of a season. One that we'll probably look back on. I do my championship stuff. And there's this mental season 2012, 2013, where there are no gaps in the table at all. And it's just completely squidged. And Hull got promoted with 79 points in second place. It's going to be one of those where you look back. Joe, just give me your read on the playoffs now, because Oxford cannot make it. So it's Sheffield Wednesday upwards. Wednesday have got a game in hand, and I believe it's against Fleetwood as well. So I would not be surprised if by the time we go into final day, Wickham are not in the top 6 with 80 points.
I think that'll be the case. I can't see Sheffield Wednesday. They lost 1-0 to Wickham yesterday, didn't they? Had they won that, Wickham would be out of it effectively. So by Wickham winning yesterday, they've kept themselves in the race. But I think it's going to be Sheffield Wednesday winning their midweek game in hand, and Wigan are going to be 7th with 80 points going into the final day of the season. And I say we'll see. I don't know. I haven't actually looked at the fixtures who Plymouth have got. Plymouth have got
MK on the last day. They could literally drop out on having been there all season.
Yeah, I that's what I think will happen. I think that Plymouth will end up in 7th.
That would be so unlucky. I know. Yeah. Look, we're going to be saying it about someone. They're going to be so unlucky. Just quickly, Seb, it does. I know we're not going to be involved, but assume Rotherham finish second. You've got MK, who kind of play nice possession with the 3 at the back and the good front 3. You've got Sunderland, who seem to be by size just bashing their way through with force of will at the moment and in great form. You've got Plymouth, like we said. Wickham, for some tactical diversity, always make things interesting. Sheffield Wednesday, perhaps maybe relying on certain individuals, but still a big threat. Where are you on the playoffs then?
Well, the momentum and the form, I guess, is with Sunderland, but
they always manage to mess it up.
As we know, if there's a club that's going to mess it up more than Ipswich, it's going to be Sunderland. So I think if Sheffield Wednesday get in there, which I think they will, I think they'll win midweek and get in there and finish strongly. I think they'll be real favourites to go and do it, and MK as well. I can see it being that kind of a final if the permutations work, and one of those two will be going up.
If that's the case, Joe, is it very much going to be a case of sort of strategy versus star power in terms of MK and Plymouth are probably better coached, but maybe Sunderland and Wednesday, this is assuming Wickham don't get in on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that might underplay the job Darren Moore's done at Sheffield Wednesday a little bit. When you look at their form over the last 20 games or so, I think they've probably been the best side in the league, for maybe MK aside. I think they've probably been the best side in the league since Christmas, really, and they've looked really good. They've just drop points as it gets to the line, as is always the case. Everyone seems to race up to it and then stumble over it, don't they? And
yeah.
I think they're in that position, but
from a selfish point of view, we want Wednesday to go up, don't we? Let's be honest, because if MK Dons don't make it, then the chances are they're going to have to lose Scott Twine, and they're going to have to lose, Adam's going to get nicked as well. And from a selfish point of view, we don't want them here next year, given the clubs that are going to stay down and the ones that are going to come down and join us.
Well, it's going to sort of bring that up because we now know as well. I mean, Derby had already gone over the weekend. Barnsley have gone, and Peterborough went yesterday. Am I right? Was it just Forest Green that went up yesterday?
Yeah, Forest Green are up, and Exeter will do it, won't they? So
it's starting to. I mean, look, the Championship ones were not a surprise, where they were expecting that to be sort of confirmed as and when. But Forest Green's an interesting addition as well. But you mentioned the Sheffield Wednesday point, Seb. I've kind of given up with that type of prognostication because I just never know. You can throw Plymouth in there this season where, look, there's an 80-point team as well.
Yeah, potentially, and I guess the ones coming down, Peterborough, are well schooled at this level. They'll be there or thereabouts as well. Nobody knows with Derby with regards to the takeover and Rooney and the squad, so they're impossible to call. Barnsley, you'll know better than us if
I
they
think
got
they'd be all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're still going to have Portsmouth staying down. Charlton probably won't be as bad as last season. We're going to try and be in the mix, and 3 of those 4 clubs we've just discussed in the playoffs are all going to be here as well. So there's going to be a hell of a scrap next year to get out. It's not going to get any easier, let's be honest.
Well, and I know we've got a question coming up on this, so I'll keep my powder dry a little bit. But this idea of this split of you always look for the gaps in a league table. I know I mentioned that championship season. That's a complete outlier where there are no gaps, where you're 1 point or tied or 1 point all the way up. But this split down the middle and lots of teams able to. And in fact, let me just bring that table back up because we should talk about Fleetwood and Wimbledon, because there was that massive head-to-head yesterday. So Gillingham lost at Pompey to drop into that. Well, I thought Gillingham and Harris had kind of got out of it. Fleetwood, I know they're not winning, but they just equalised late on against Wimbledon. And again, that game in hand is probably not pertinent because it is against Sheffield Wednesday for Fleetwood. Doncaster are basically cooked, even though mathematically, when you look at the goal difference, there's
need
not
a 10-goal swing, I think.
Yeah, there's not going to be a 10-goal swing in the sort of last, unless Wednesday really win sort of 6-7-0 against Fleetwood, and we get some strangeness like that. But you're kind of looking, and I go on a point per game in the championship. Obviously, there's 4 relegated, so it's more normally like 50 points or close, high 40s to survive in League One. But if you look, you can see 29, 37, 37, 40, 40. You can see, Joe, where the top teams, there's whipping boys down the bottom there with 30 defeats and 28 defeats, isn't there?
Yeah, and one of the things that concerns me on that side of it is that we've only got 67 points this year, and last year we got 69 points. And even though there's all these extra whipping boys in the league, we're almost going to end up in a worse position we did last season, which is worrying really after all the investment we've had. But it does feel like a one-off this year. Like when you look at 20 plus years of EFL tables, you might find one year out of 7, so one league table out of 75 where it's going to take 80 points to get in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be a new normal. I think it's just going to be a one-off. And if we get 75 points next year, I'm sure we'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I always kind of argue with people, but argue the point that league table. I think we forget sometimes, and I know I'm guilty of it as well, that it is just a race, and a league table is an organism where one part of it is in direct reaction to another. If you have a drab mid-table at the end of the season, then it'll increase the output of
it's almost like in the table. When you watch the Olympics, like the 10,000 meters, isn't it? Where someone, Mo Farah, might win the race, but he might be 20 seconds off the world record or 30 seconds off the world record, where sometimes there'll be a race on like a Diamond League and you've got 3 people who finish within 5 seconds of the world record, but they don't win. Because it's not about your time, it's about winning the race, effectively.
Exactly.
It's not about how many points you get, it's about making sure you get enough points to get where you want to get to. And
you in relation to your opponents and your rivals, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you need more points, you get them. Like the teams at the bottom, if for example, Gillingham and Morecambe had 5 more points, Fleetwood probably wouldn't be picking up these 1 points here and there because they'd be needing to try and win the game, and they'd be ending up losing the games, and there'd be a bigger gap there. So it's like I say, you do what you need to do to try and get where you need to get to without sounding sort of simplistic on it.
No,
if you need to win games, you try and win the games. Where if a point will do, you're happy to set up for a point.
Let's do some questions. Seb, Mullet, would you keep Kane Vincent-Young as an alternate to Burns, who can also play left wing back, or see how El Miz works out there? It doesn't sound like you were too high on El Miz at. Sorry, I was mocking Joe for doing nicknames. El Mizuni at right wing back.
He did all right.
Just to add another one into the mix on that as well, so you can answer this as well. Remember, McKenna said that Edwards was being trained in that position behind Wes Burns as well, and he did mention yesterday about Kane Vince Young playing higher than he's ever played. So there's some supplementary info for your
supplementary info. That's tremendous.
Yeah. So
go on.
As I was going to mention with Edwards, he was the deputy being trained up round about whenever it was January, February time that he got injured. So I'm not entirely sure where Vincent Young will fit in. I think Vincent Young just needs to kind of go and play football. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's one that does move on. El Mazzuni, I think yesterday was just we had to get somebody on in that position because Vincent Young was done on the hour mark, and I much prefer El Mazzuni in the centre of midfield. But again, he might be one that looks to move on as well, because if what we're hearing regarding transfer targets and lists and planning meetings in the US are all accurate, then we're going to be going for some seriously high quality players for this level. And I think a couple of these guys might fall by the wayside. If Vincent Young is happy to stay and play 10, 15 games a season, then he's a very, very able deputy. We've never really seen him in that right wing back role, have we? When we signed him, he was a right back, and although he would push forward and get in decent positions, he never kind of played that advanced in his time here. If he's happy to stay and play, no issues keeping him, but I think he'll be one of those like Plagkey that will want to go and play some football, so I can see him moving on in the summer.
Yeah, when El Mazzuni came over first from France as a first-year scholar, he played a lot of his football at right back for the under-18, so it's not a role that's totally unfamiliar to him. Played right back, played centre back a bit, and sort of then found his home in sort of central midfield, and then ended up pushing on as more of a sort of attacker midfielder. So I wonder whether, I know sort of if you read anything from Pep Guardiola, he talks about how he likes to have a squad of about sort of 20 players, but these players have to be versatile and have to be able to cover 2 or 3 roles, and whether he sees El Mazzuni as someone that can cover that role. Because while we talk about it as a right wing back role, it really isn't, is it? It's a wide midfield role. How often did Vincent Young come in from that flank and almost end up in the left wing spot because he was carrying the ball in field and play for that? It's almost like a wide playmaker, the way that both El Mazzuni and Vincent Young played it yesterday. And I just don't think that. I don't think we need a fullback there, which is why I don't think Vincent Young will stay there, because it's not a fullback role. It's a wide midfielder role, if anything, isn't it? And you've got
Joe,
one option of Burns that can run.
That completely parlays into the conversation we had the other day about more and more often than not now we are seeing wingers play that role, and it's definitely the role has sort of changed in recent seasons. And
I guess, sorry, just to throw in quickly, we don't actually know what McKenna wants to play tactical. He might completely change it in pre-season. Yeah, he's taken McGrill's formation and continued it, but he might want to play to a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 or something. We just don't know at this point.
It's very in vogue, isn't it? I think in the Championship, like 20 of the 24 teams are playing 3 at the back at the moment. So
it's fashionable at the moment, isn't it? Yeah.
And when you look at how our squad sets up with like Donatian as that hybrid right back, right centre back, we've got players that are just perfect for the shape, haven't we?
Interestingly, the top 2 in the Championship in the main player back 4, but they also have
so do the bottom
payments. 2. Do they? And Bournemouth, not Bournemouth, Blackpool with their 4-4-2, which Dave would love. Morris has asked a lot of questions. I think we've already answered all of them about teams coming in and out. So thank you for the question, and we'll move on. FPL Tractor Joe, what did we, KM, learn from yesterday? Anything?
I think maybe it's Joe Pigott sort of failing another audition, isn't it? That he's just not. I don't know. He seems to do his best work away from goal, doesn't he? And it didn't really work from there. I think we know that James Norwood isn't really capable of playing one of those wide forward roles, and if you want to play, he's got to be a centre forward. So we'll see. But I don't know. I'm sort of undenied over Norwood, and I know there's sort of the wage constraints in place with him, and maybe we aren't going to be in a position to sign him. But he is just a striker that gets chances and scores goals. And even yesterday, it's that the ball through that he sort of comes from nowhere, just nips in head of the keeper, and the keeper saves it. Chaplin plays him in. But which other strikers are on the end of good chances? And I think you could say that for almost all 3 years in League One, we've struggled to create chances unless James Norwood is on the pitch. Is he the key? Because he's a bit of a shot monster, isn't he? When you look at shots per 90, XG per 90, everything per 90, he sits up in the top of the division.
You were a shot monster on Wednesday nights in Southampton, weren't you, Joe?
Oh yeah, back in the day, yeah. And but I can see all the arguments for releasing James Norwood, but then just part of me thinks he is just someone that will score goals. If we play him, he'll score goals. But and he's been fit all year, really, hasn't he? I know he's fell out of favour, but I don't know, just something just talks me into wanting to keep him here, which I know is probably not going to happen, and it's probably not the right thing, but we'll see.
I feel you. Please do get involved over on Leveler. We've got the group chat going there. There's a 2-week free trial. If you give any of us a shout on Twitter or go to the website, you can find out about Leveler. Loads of good stuff going on there. Seb, the conversation about the 80-point total had come from Martin over on Leveler. One wrinkle he adds is that despite the ridiculously high tide for the playoffs, it is still going to be 2 points per game for top two. So you can just see there's the gap is always elsewhere, isn't it? And that's standard. If and can we be so bold? I'm sure fans of every other team will criticise us for saying it, but if the expectation is to aim for 2 points per game, then 80 points and missing out in the playoffs isn't irrelevant if you score 90, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Aiming for the 2 points per game will get you exactly where you want to be at the end of the season. And as we said earlier, it's just a bit of a freak year, isn't it? It's a freak season. I'm sure next year it'll return to the mean and go back down to 74, 75 points or so for sixth place. And it'll revert back to normal. If you can aim for 2 points per game, you're going to be in the top two. And I guess that's what they'll be looking to go for in the summer when they all come back. It's just a freakish year. We can add it to the list of unfortunate timings for Ipswich Town Football Club, can't we? Like when ITV Digital went under and all the rest of them will add in 2021, 2022 playoff numbers as a.
But then we've only got 67 points, so it's not that unfortunate for us.
Well, it's just we're so crap against the bottom sides, aren't we? You know, we fix that problem and pick up points against the sides we should be steamrolling, like, dare I say, we did under Lambert pretty efficiently. Then we'd be right back in the mix. That's what they're going to have to look at and try and improve upon.
Yeah, I think that too often over the last couple of years, the expectations at Ipswich just started the season like, oh, we want to win the league. Then it's like, oh, we're looking for the automatic promotions. Oh, we're in the playoffs. Oh, we're chasing a playoff spot. That the expectations have just gradually dropped back all season. It's like, no, that can't happen. The minimum expectation for this football club is to be in the playoffs next season, and you can't aim for the playoffs. You've got to aim for the top two, and the playoffs is your fallback. We can't be like we've spent 3 years in mid-table effectively in this league now. We have our points per game. If you look at it across the 3 seasons, it's basically the same across all 3 seasons. Whatever we've done, we haven't got away from finishing on about 60, between 65 and 70 points, and we're not going to this year. That's where we are, and that's 10 points short minimum of where we need to be. In reality, it's 15 points short of where we should be aiming to be. So
and Joe, that tells us everything about the 3 teams. When you talk about a team that's 10 points short or 15 points short, you know that team was not fit for a promotion.
No, and there's one manager out of the 3 that we've had who's got a points per game, which would have us in that sort of in the range where we need to be as a minimum. And fortunately for us, that manager is the man who's in the dugout at the moment, and not the 2 previous incumbents of the role who couldn't do enough here and weren't able to get us where we needed to be. So we've hopefully that McKenna, and this is a man who came in and picked up a squad that wasn't his, has not been able to add to it as yet, has not been able to find the right balance between the sort of forward players. And so, like I say, there's a lot of positive signs in it. Like I say, we've got the man who's proven he can do it with what he's picked up, and he's going to add to it. So fingers crossed he stays the right man. But no, we've got to come out the traps flying next year, and we should do. We've got the spine of the team to start the season. We know on the first day of the season that all being fit, we're going to have Christian Walton in the team. We're going to have Janoy Danashian, Luke Wolfenden, George Edmondson, Sam Morsey are going to be in the team, and that is the spine of your team, isn't there? That sort of central 5 of your team, and we know we've got Wes Burns will play if he's fit. He's been brilliant at this level, so there's no excuses, is there? And we're going to start pre-season with the team that is going to start the season, and we're going to need to, because there's no room for error.
You got anything to say about a match against Charlton next week? Next week, Seb. It's hard to have any kind of focus. I'll give you a little bit. They're 1 place below us in the table, but they're 8 points behind. So we're not going to finish lower than 11th. Can we go past Bolton on the last?
If we win and they lose, we'll go past them.
What's the goal difference?
We've got better.
Okay. Is that it? Top 10, Seb?
Yeah, finish the season as strongly as you can. I guess it'll be another decent crowd at Portman Road. You're probably looking at what, 20, 22, 23,000.
Don't talk about attendance. Seb, stop it.
Stop talking about it's what big clubs do.
Attendance.
You know,
you're obsessed on strings, rattled, check hard drive or whatever I got told to do the other day.
Yeah, no, hopefully they'll end the season strong, put in a decent performance, and we'll all go off into the summer with a bit of optimism. Again, like I thought yesterday, I'd like to see a couple of the younger kind of players get a bit of game time. This means absolutely nothing, does it? Let's be honest. So there's no harm in it. And I guess like we saw yesterday with the bench, we'll see again who is likely to be here and who's not going to be. If Flagship is missing again and Carroll is missing again, then we know they're going to be off. And you know, if Baggett comes in and plays a bit of time, or Humphreys comes in and makes a start and gets subbed, then great, it'll be good to see. But the important thing is to end strong and send us all off into that summer with a little bit of optimism.
Yeah, because I wonder, I suppose one of the questions, I spoke about it briefly earlier about James Nord, whether we keep him or not. If he starts again next week, I think that gives him a chance. But if we bring Macaulay-Bonne in, I think that probably draws a line under James Nord's Ipswich Town career, because Macaulay-Bonne just hasn't had a look in, really, has he? I know he started the week in midweek, but he's clearly not a part of the plans for next season, is he?
No, you wouldn't have thought so. And we now know as well, Rangers basically aren't going up. That's not mathematically there, but it'd be interesting to see where Bonne does sort of pipe up next season, won't it?
Yeah, I imagine it'll be somewhere else in League One.
Yeah, I should imagine so. Right. Hopefully we managed to keep things interesting for you on the Blue Monday podcast today. We will be back as ever in midweek. It is the last week of the season, and we thank you as ever for all of your support throughout the season. Please do think about getting involved in the Leveller community. That's really, really good fun. We're all on there messaging every day, and you can get a 2-week free trial as well at Blue Monday ITFC on Twitter and Acast. Normal things, YouTube. We've been doing this for years now, haven't we? Seb, any last words from you?
No, I'm done now. I'm not doing Charlton next week, so my 2021-2022 season is over.
You're going to watch the League One playoffs?
Yeah, I'll watch all that stuff. But it's my Ipswich Town following is done for the season, and obviously we'll go into the summer and all get excited come August.
Joe, you're never done, are you?
No, looking forward to next Saturday. Wednesday night, we've got the Under-18s Cup final at Portman Road, the PDL Cup against Coventry. So if anyone's looking for a live action fix of a game that means something to the kids. And I wonder whether we'll see Cameron Humphreys and Tawanda Chirera playing that game, because they're both eligible and they both played in the semi-final. So it'd be nice to see them on Portman Road, hopefully winning some silverware for the club. I know it's sort of just the League Cup, effectively the Category 2 League Cup. So we'll see that the under-23s will be going into the playoffs in upcoming weeks. I don't think the under-18s can now make it. So there's a little bit of interest from there, and I'll make sure I tweet about it or put it on the Leveller chat, because I haven't really tweeted much from the Academy account recently, to be fair.
Excellent stuff.
And I'll make sure Rich retweets it from the Blue Monday account if there is any games going on.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I suppose then we can look forward to lots of transfer speculation, some of which will not be true. We'll see you very soon as the last week comes up. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening to the Blue Monday podcast.